Season 2 at Cerkelbrugge was set to be a big one. With our qualification for the playoff round in the Champions League, we were guaranteed at least some European competition alongside our attempt to retain our title in the Pro League and our aspirations to make a deeper cup run than last year's quarterfinal exit. We got almost all of our transfer business done very early in the window, selling about $6 million worth of players. 2 returning loanees in left back Luis Torres and defensive mid Frank Canute were sold for $53k and $1.4 million respectively. Jan Gboho, who I'd been trying to get rid of since January of last season, finally left to Clermont for $1.3 million, and our biggest stat was backup striker Kevin Denke to Genk for $3.2 million. I'd have preferred not to sell him to a league rival, but they made the highest bid by quite some margin. We did do some wheeling and dealing with our incomings, though.
No, I'm not a wheeling and dealing. No.
Youngster Thomas Mukendi came in on loan from Standard Liège for a $375,000 loan fee. Tunisian fullback Ghassan Matugi came in for $90k from ES Tunis. Left-winger Karamoko Sankara came in from Ivorian club ASEC Mimosas for $250k, as well as Behar Ismaili from Anderlecht for $350k. New-gen midfielder Hamza Bourmila came in from 2nd Division Virton on a free, and our final piece of transfer business into the club came in the form of Lilian Vergalen on loan for a fee of $350k. Using a new tactic due to our lack of good centre-backs, we went into our first game of the season against Mechelen in the Super Cup.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
Our league campaign didn't start much better after Bugafair was sent off versus Anderlecht in the 38th minute. We'd go on to draw that match 1-1, Anderlecht getting a late equalizer through Mustafa Bundu. Luckily for me, our form picked up beating Eupen 4-1 in our next match, and scraping a 1-0 over St. Gilloise a week later. So let's talk about our Champions League qualifier. We got drawn against Swiss side Young Boys, which is probably one of the worst case scenarios. And you know what, I'm just not going to talk about that anymore. Along with our loss in the Champions League, we'd not win another Pro League match until we beat newly promoted RWD Molenbeek on the 24th of September. We gained a possible 3 of 12 points between our 1-0 against St. Gilloise and our 2-1 over Molenbeek. Following that win and a 4th draw in 6, we'd finally get the draw Furt. And again, we'd get what was probably the worst case scenario. Perennial Europa League winners Sevilla alongside Premier League Wolves, and one of the big 3 in Portugal in Sporting. On our opening match day, we'd snag the ultimate smash and grab victory as we beat Sevilla 1-0. But we were utterly outclassed and outperformed on the day. Goalkeeper Thomas Didion's heroics from Adnan Januzaj's penalty allowed us to come away with all 3 points. In our second match, we played Wolves, and with our struggles in the league, I figured a tactic change wouldn't hurt, at least for one game. So thank you to View from the Touchline on Twitter for this 4-2-3-1 tactic. We again got absolutely outplayed versus our Premier League opposition, but snuck away with a 1-1 draw thanks to an Emilio Carrer penalty. So I figured I'd continue to use the 4-2-3-1 for a few more games to see if it'd stick. Back in the domestic league, Ayaze Ueda was up to his old tricks again, scoring twice in a 3-0 win over Oostende. A 1-0 over Standard Liège followed, but Westerlo?
First half was good, but second half was shit.
In our next match versus Mechelen, Sedemiange became our 3rd player to be dismissed in the league, and coupled with Emilio Carrer's injury, you'd think we'd lose again. But much to my delight, we did manage a 3-1 win after Olivier Damon left it late, and Jesper Dahlen sealed the deal. In the Europa League, we played Sporting twice in 2 weeks, losing our first tie 3-1, but grabbing a 1-0 in the second fixture. Ayaze Ueda's sending off in the away match against Wolves on match day 5 also didn't help as we lost that one 2-0. We really didn't seem to be doing much better in the Belgian Cup, where we got 3rd Division Hoogstraten in the 6th round, leaving it until extra time before Karamoko Sankara and Lasso Koulibaly scored to give us a 2-0 victory. Against Kortrijk in the league, and again we couldn't find a way to win, nearly losing the match until Sankara scored late again, and Abu Francis, who settled very well into the trequartista role, scored a 90th minute equalizer. Little did I know though, this poor result would lead us to go unbeaten for the entire month of December, getting a 3-1 win over Eupen, alongside a deserved 1-0 win over Oostende in the 7th round of the Cup, and a win in our final Europa League group game against Sevilla. Unfortunately for us, we'd end our Europa League journey finishing in 3rd on goal difference, which meant we dropped down to but we'll get back to that later. For now, let's focus on not crashing out of the Cup in the quarterfinal again. Well, at least we don't have to worry about that anymore. Our good form in the league continued through January as we got 7 points from a possible 9 in that month, including a 4-3 win over OH Leuven, where Emilio Kerrer scored a hat-trick. But the real man of the match performance came from Elias Bugafer, who assisted all 4 goals. But then we absolutely wilted and died in the Brugge derby 2 weeks afterward. We dealt with it well, however, and walked out 3-1 and 3-0 winners versus Molenbeek and Ghent respectively in our next 2 matches. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, it was January, so it was time for some... Hannes van der Bruggen departed the club on the 1st of January for 2.4 million as he'd recently turned 30, and young Cercle players Aliou Fall and Thomas left for a combined 45k. But the real news came from the 7 incoming players. Nearly all of them were free transfers from using the Wonderkid player search filter. Ronan Batebetter was the second player to come in from Verton this season, Mattis Jorgensen arrived from Norwegian 3rd tier side Lyn, Etienne van Jaarsveld came in from Dutch 3rd tier side ASWH, and young goalkeeper Nathaniel Nwosu left his boyhood club of Water FC in Nigeria to come play for our U18s. Finally, a trio of young Spaniards came in, Ot $, and Io Julia from purely youth academy-based CF Dam, and the only signing we made for any fee in January was the signing of centre-back Josep Mikel from Cornellà for about 45k, though he'd be loaned straight back to Cornellà for the remainder of the season. With all of our transfer business out of the way for the year, we'd get our draw for the Conference League knockout playoff.
Feast mode activated. #hungry. FeedMeMore.com.
Sitting in a disappointing 5th place in the league, even after our last 2 matches, I saw we had a chance to shoot up the table with a few easier fixtures coming up. But in order to do that, we'd need to actually win. We did, however, keep the good times rolling in the Conference League, beating Aston Villa 4-1 over 2 legs in order to advance to the quarterfinals where we'd face Benfica. A shock 3-2 home win came about thanks to a 96th minute winner by Ueda. We'd finish out the regular season with a disappointing 2-0 loss to Kortrijk away from home, putting us in 7th, 6 places and 26 points worse than our title-winning season last year. With our low finish in the league, we were placed into the European qualification group, and it started great, getting 3 wins from 4 against the likes of Westerlo, Anderlecht and Ghent, but after our back-to-back victories against Mechelen, we really kicked it into overdrive, sitting top of the group, poised to enter the Conference League qualifiers next season.
No! Fuck! Shit!
At least we'll have a decent budget for next season from our performance in the Conference League.
Jesus Christ. Fucking hell, man. I'm finished.